Hello and very warm welcome everyone. It's Marta here. Welcome back. It's day 3 of our flower video collaboration. So prompt for today's video is flower box, and I actually had to slightly change the plans for today's video because I didn't manage to create my own handmade flowers. I'm gonna be using ready-made flowers, and I had this big pile of the pink flowers, so I've decided to create a pink box. I'm starting from creating shadow box, and I'm gonna be actually needing two of these. So what I'm doing here, I am placing the 12 by 12 inch paper on my scoring board, or 30 by 30 centimeters, and I am scoring every half an inch 4 lines on each side. So that will be either half an inch or 1 centimeter, something like that. Now I have this pile of the circles which were left over from the workshop I was doing in the local library, so I've decided to use them up. So here I'm trying to find the matching die, more or less similar size, and because this paper is too wide to go to my die cutting machine, I am just gonna be placing the die and create this little like a circular shape with the help of my pencil and scissors. I don't have to be super precise because this part will be covered anyway. I'm just needing some sort of the circular aperture to actually, hide behind those white frames you could see here. So here is the part where I'm gonna be putting my shadow box together. So after I have 4 scoring lines on each side, I am making a little tiny line on the second row from the top part, and that one is also like a half an inch little line, so I could cut the pieces under the angle. You will see it more clearly once I will cut it here with the scissors, and once I finish, you can see I'm cutting kind of like a U shape here using this half an inch measurement. What I like to do for my shadow box, I also like to leave myself little flaps, because that way once you put the shadow box together, those flaps are actually hiding behind the those little corners, and then you have this full build up corner. There's no like gaps in between the paper. So here, before I will put my aperture shadow box together, I've decided to dress it up with the paper. It's the quickest, easiest way, rather than putting your shadow box together and then trying to find the measurement for adhering the paper inside. I'm not gonna be leaving any borders, so I cut my paper more or less slightly smaller size than the 8 by 8 inches, which is the central portion of this shadow box. And now I also need to cut the same aperture, so for that I secure the paper with a piece of the washi tape, and again I'm using my scissors just to roughly chop the circular shape. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be super neat, because this will be covered anyway. If someone like, you can still use the die, but it's just extra job, and I thought it will be way quicker with the scissors. Once I'm finished with that, I am adding the adhesive to the back side of this gorgeous paper, which is actually part of my 10,000 subscription celebration, which also includes some free papers as well. So I do encourage you to check link down below in the description area for my Buy Me a Coffee page. And also at the same time, I encourage you to go to the other crafters video. There's a whole list of the collaborators in this flowery craft festival. There is 2 Monicas, Mel, Katarina, Benita, Lisa, and me. So 7 different videos, and each single day of this flower craft festival we are creating projects with the same prompt, but every single time, and this is the most surprising thing, that each one of us having different approach, different project, and it's so nice and interesting even for me to check my friends' videos and see what they are coming up, because we all have different ideas for the same prompt each single time. So here, once I put my shadow box together, the first one with the aperture, I am doing exactly the same thing with another one. I am going over my scoring line just to flat them up, and now I'm taking this aperture box and I'm just pencil sketching the opening there. I'm not gonna be cutting aperture on the second box, but I just want to have the rough idea where the aperture is, so I could fill up my tray, my shadow box, the one which is gonna be below, with some flowers. Now, once I will glue this shadow box together, I will start adhering some flowers. And for this video, I was planning actually to create some handmade flowers, but because we are in the middle of the renovation, it took me way longer time to paint and decorate my wall in my living room than I thought. I didn't have the time, so I've decided to go a little shortcut and used some ready-made foam flowers. I have the whole stack of the cheap flowers, which I am storing for the time where I'm using them with some like kids workshops and things like that. So I've decided to use them up here, and that way it just make my box a little bit quicker. Now, once I sketch this circular line, I am filling it with those roses, and I'm slightly going beyond the line, so that way if it's gonna be seen from the angle, it's not gonna be visible that there is empty space beyond it, but I am just making sure they nice and tight, like one onto next to another one. So here you can see how it's filled up, and this is very easy and quick project, and that will be great idea for a Mother's Day gift or any birthday, or you could also place like a number. If you cut thick number like 50 or 60, and you can place it on a center here on top of those roses, that could be great gift for a specialty birthday or like an anniversary gift as well, if you just place the number of top of those roses. Now I stack both shadow boxes one on top of another, and to actually disguise it that there are two separate boxes, I am adding piece of the decorative paper on all 4 sides of my boxes. Now you could actually create it with using the one shadow box, but it will be actually much harder to adhere this aperture part nice and neat. So using 2 separate shadow boxes, I think is just make the whole thing much easier. And actually, if you will use the 3rd shadow box with slightly larger aperture, that will give you this nice and fun like a tunnel effect as well. So this is just something to take under consideration. You can play with the layers and each time leaving slightly bigger aperture on top, that way it will give you this nice and interesting look as well, to build up your composition. And once you add the paper to all 4 sides like I did here, and no one will know that there is more than one box. Here I'm using those leftover pieces which I had in my drawer, and I stuck, I think it was 3 or 4 frames together, and I'm gonna be decorating them with the ribbon. This is one of my favorite technique to add some specialty touch and elegance, and it doesn't really have to be circular frame as well. You can wave the ribbon around the square shape frame, hexagonal, or any other like specialty label. You just need some sort of the frame, and then you can give it this nice elegant look by wrapping the ribbon around the frame. Now, to give it even more elegance, I've decided to use this very thin lacy ribbon I have. I'm cutting it in half because it's too long. Plus, I've noticed that for the technique I'm actually using, I don't really need the whole ribbon. Having the half of it will give me this nice lacy look on the edge, and I'm actually gonna be waving it on the inner portion instead of the outside, which is normally like what we tend to do. I've decided to actually dress up this aperture opening from the inside part, and I'm just gently folding it back and forth every like half an inch or something, and that will give me this very nice look. Now, I cut myself this doily using some die. I believe this was the Christina Griffin's card making magic die, but any decorative edge die will work here as well. Or if you've got like a scallop circle, that will be looking nice as well. I just really like this die, and it was actually matching the size perfectly. Now, one last thing I forgot was to dress the back side of my box. So for that, I am taking another piece of the decorative paper, which I am cutting to the size, and later on I will adhere it to the back side of my box. It is very important, and I will be giving you a little reminder that if you're creating this very special card, it is important to decorate it on the side, on the back, or any so the card is looking luxury and it's finished on all four sides. I do it quite often, especially if I make this premium luxurious looking card. I like to decorate them on the back as well, because that way if the recipient see the card, it's just presenting nicely on all angles. So here I've cut the aperture in this frame, and I am adding it from behind my circular frame with the ribbon and lace, and you can see how beautifully it's looking. I really like the way how it's coming up, and even though I was kind of in a rush for today's project, I didn't have much time and I was planning something slightly different. I am super happy of how it's turned out, and it's all those little details. Here is my trick for cutting the aperture using the trimmer. If you want to make sure that your frame will be always the same thickness, rather than going with the measurement, just place a piece of the washi tape or any other tape on your board, and that way you stick your paper next to the edge of the washi tape, and each single time you have this perfect border and it's equal from all four sides. This is way quicker than following the scoring line, making sure you're counting how much measurement you have. It's just very easy to follow that way, and your frame will be perfect each single time. Here I am adhering my circular decoration on front of those roses aperture, and this is very nice finishing. I have these pearls here which I was planning to use, but that will be cover this doily part too much. I also cut this fancy shape die, which was very old spellbinder die. I will double check the name, and if I find it, I will give you in the description area. But any kind of fancy layering, like a fancy shape die, will be working well here. You just need to cut it, then divide it into smaller portion and use that for decorating your corner. It doesn't look very neat but once I add the frame on top of that, it will cover up the whole thing, and no one will see that this is separate pieces of the die cut piece. So here I am adding the liquid adhesive, and I do encourage you to work with liquid glue for this type of the work rather than the tape. It's just way easier. The glue will give you some wiggle room, and it's just easier to adhere the frame that way. Here I have the sentiment, and these sentiments are also included in this 10,000 subscription collection pack, which I have on my Buy Me a Coffee page. And I've decided to use the On Your Special Day because I'm not quite sure for which occasion I'm gonna use this box, whether it's gonna be Mother's Day or for a granny or something. I've decided to leave kind of a universal sentiment there. I've cut a couple of the leaves, and I just use this plain, like a very lightweight sage color paper. And what I like to do for my leaves, I always follow, I cut it from the plain paper, and then I add some extra splashes of the ink just to give it a little bit more dimensional look. I also shape those leaves by gently squeezing them in the center. That will give them way more dimension. I am adding couple of the leaves on the right side, on the left side, but I also leave one or two to put on the other side. That way the composition is actually, spread onto entire box, and I just think that this is way more balanced this way. And on the other side, I'm just gonna add slightly smaller composition with one flower. Lastly, I've decided, here is the part I forgot. I've cut this piece to put on the back side of my card, and I actually forgot to add it. But it doesn't matter, I can do it over here now, and that way the card is nicely finished from all four sides, which I was mentioning earlier. And to finish off my box, I am adding the layer of this pearly string. I think this is like 1 or 2 millimeter pearls. They are plastic pearls, and you can buy them in any craft store or eBay, something like that. They are sold by meters, or yards, whatever the measurements you're using. And these are super cool to finish all these type of the aperture or openings, things like that, because they are also super nice to add, and it's way easier to work with the string rather than adhering pearls separately. So it's much faster, and that will give me this nice professionally finished look. Let me know what you think. Please let me know in a comment if this is something you would try, or for what occasion would you create this type of the box. I hope you enjoy it. I hope this project sparks some joy, and if you create something like that, please share on the group. I do have the Drop of Inspirational group on a Facebook where you can share your projects once you finish them. Here, a couple of the final looks, and I hope you like it. Stay blessed, my friends. I will see you shortly. And of course, don't forget to check the videos from my friends on this flower craft festival. Stay blessed, and bye-bye.